As a VR developer, I wanted to see if this ChatGPT thing was good enough to kind of help me to recreate actually one of the most famous VR game, Beat Saber.
Welcome to a new episode of XR and AI Spotlight, the show that gives the stage to the founders and makers pushing the boundaries of XR and AI. My name is Gabriele Romagnoli, I'm your host, and I'm here today with Quanetin Valenbois. Quanetin, aka Valem, is an XR developer, teacher, content creator, and the CEO of Valem Studio. He has been working professionally in VR since 2017, and he soon realized that there wasn't good content to learn how to code for VR. This is why he decided to start not one but two channels to inspire and educate developers to get started and master XR development. Until AI came. That's the moment that he decided to answer a question many devs are asking right now. Can AI take over my job? Today, we will learn the surprising way in which AI was capable of correcting its own mistakes.
This is one of the first things that blew completely my mind. At the end, I realized that I didn't even need it to be precise. Just the sentence, there is a mistake in the script, can you find it and correct it, was enough.
What kind of knowledge do you need to follow AI instructions at all?
I really think that you don't need a high level of expertise in Unity to redo what I did with it.
And why, despite the tremendous similarity of the final product with the game, it is better for you as a developer to learn as a human.
What you need to do as somebody that needs to learn VR development is first learn yourself before having the work with an AI. By doing this whole process, you kind of skip the fact that you are the one learning something, right? Which is very important as us human to kind of better ourselves and get better at what we are doing.
But before we get into it, I wanted to thank our sponsor Meshy, who made this episode possible. Meshy is a real powerhouse for generating 3D assets with AI. You can start with a simple text or image prompt and get high quality stylized 3D models in just a minute. One feature I personally love is the ability to create stylized texture for any mesh, with or without UV. And since the release, Meshy's teams keep pushing amazing updates like texture inpainting, ultra-realistic sculpture, and the ability to rig and animate your character. To try it out, go to meshy.ai and start the 7 days trial to access all these incredible features. And now it's time to roll the title and welcome Valem under the spotlight. Valem, it is a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank for having me, and thank you for this awesome intro. It was really, really sums up pretty well what I'm doing, and the challenge that I'm facing with AI, and that I'm happy to discuss right now in this podcast.
So, we will dive into a bit of your YouTube channels, about a bit about what you are building, but most importantly, how you have dealt with this challenge. So, can you first tell us about what was this challenge and what were the actual rules?
Okay, so it was at the time where ChatGPT was kind of new. We didn't know exactly if it can do the same thing as us developer or as us human, more generally speaking. And so personally, as a VR developer, I wanted to see if for like this kind of new technology, if this ChatGPT thing was good enough to kind of help me to recreate actually one of the most famous VR game, Beat Saber. So the rule of the challenge were really precise because I didn't want anybody to think that I'm cheating or that I'm doing the work instead of the AI, right? So the challenge was like, okay, I can ask some question to ChatGPT, but I cannot write any code of my own. And anything that I'm doing in the game engine, which is Unity, must be told by the AI, so by ChatGPT. And so everything that was written, every code, even if there was a mistake in the code, I was not able to kind of cross and to correct the code myself. And so at first I can already tell you that some of the challenges that I had during this conversation is that I'm an experienced VR developer. So when I first asked some question about, okay, can you create okay, I don't know, a script for Saber that cuts through cube. It did some mistakes, and at first, I was trying to give some precise things, I was kind of giving, okay, maybe there is an error at this moment. You need to maybe check this. Can you tell me more about this? But at the end, I realized that I didn't even need it to be precise. Sometimes just the sentence, there is a mistake in the script. Can you find it and correct it? Was enough for it to, okay, oh, my bad, I did this mistake. So it's, yeah, this is one of the first thing that blew completely my mind. It didn't even need my feedback at first to correct itself. So yeah, that's crazy.
So let's do one thing. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves because I think we have a lot to cover, right? So you mentioned right now the rules of the challenge. So what was the process that ChatGPT laid out for you? So did you follow the same order of actions that you would do as a developer from a high level perspective or not?
So I think that, so what ChatGPT did was tell me about the different steps first to do a VR setup inside Unity, which is opening Unity, create a new project, go into the project settings, enable the VR on these headset. Then, okay, you need this rendering pipeline. Then you will need to create the environment. Yeah, at this point, this is something that we need to do every time. I guess it's also, yeah, at this point it was also a bit stressful for me because I'm somebody who makes tutorials for a living. So I'm making tutorials on my YouTube channel to teach others how they can make their own VR game. And this is exactly the things that I'm showing in video, which ChatGPT, yeah, sums up step by step. Um, it was maybe sometimes a bit, I don't know, a bit too vague. It didn't kind of show every little step. But of course, it corrects itself once you, okay, I don't know where are the project settings, where can I find them? Okay, on the top left corner you will see the edit button that will send you to the settings, and then from there, from this point, you can do this and this and this. um, but otherwise, yeah, for a first step it was really similar to what I'm doing. Yeah.
Okay, so the process was the same. Now, you mentioned some things like where is the project settings, for example, right? Of course, I suppose that these comes only as a text answer to you, right? There is not an image accompanying or anything explaining.
Nothing. Yeah.
Right. So the question is, how much Unity do you think it's needed? How much knowledge in Unity do you think is needed in order to start following the instruction from ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I had actually this conversation at the end of the video with the results. Some people were saying that what I did was only possible for somebody that already know Unity. Maybe even we need to make like another video where it's like a beginner with ChatGPT against like a senior developer without it, or maybe, yeah, beginners ChatGPT versus senior with ChatGPT to see if things change. But in my opinion, I think that knowing more things really helps to guide the AI, but also save sometimes, of course, because as I previously mentioned, if you don't know something, you can just ask the AI, and it will basically do the same thing that we are doing as expert in our head, which is, okay, we have this information, we are treating this information, but based on our knowledge and our expertise, we know that we can do this. But these steps can be also made by the AI if you ask even really small beginner questions. So yeah, I guess the to me personally, but this is really a subject of debate. So, in my opinion, I really think that you don't need a high level of expertise in Unity to redo what I did with it. So, you can really use ChatGPT to help you, to guide you during making a game. And more specifically, in my case, a VR game. But of course, being an expert in the field will just save you a ton of time because you will just cut through what you need to ask to the AI.
And so when you mention not much experience, can you be a bit more specific? What are the things like how long would it take to learn those basics that help you to really follow properly the instructions that are given and maybe questions when there is a bug or when there is a mistake?
Yeah. What was missing at the time was like the image view of the so you didn't have any image, you only had some text within the conversation. And I think that this is hard for like a really new beginners totally. You cannot open software and just by some without any image, just some text be able to easily follow it. That's why I still think that the job of teacher will be important in the future. I might be wrong again, but from what I see right now, of course, just only using text is not enough, of course. But once, I guess, for somebody who has previously made a very small project, or maybe who has followed already like a tutorial series on YouTube about making a very small Unity game. This can be already enough to be guided by this AI. The only thing that is kind of blocking the way is that you only have a text conversation with the person. It's not. It doesn't provide you a big interface to help you like somebody like a teacher would do. Yeah.
Okay, and that makes sense. And by the way, I suggest everybody to go, and if you are interested into this and learn the basics and even more advanced techniques, check out Valem's channels that are in the description. So go ahead there because there is a lot to learn. But maybe to go into kind of like step by step, as for example, how did you create the environment? For example, can ChatGPT make 3D models how you intended or how you expected?
Yeah. Yeah, this was a real process. So the first thing was like, okay, how can I reproduce the environment from Beat Saber? And it already knew that the environment of Beat Saber is like this neon with smoke and this kind of laser show kind of environment. So it told me, okay, you need to create maybe a cube there, another cube right there that you can extend. And if you create a material that has some emissive redness or blue, you can really create this kind of vibe in your game. But then I was like, okay, so uh, I knew about recreating some part of the environment like this by following what he told me with the material and stuff like this. But it it wasn't able to create a custom 3D model for me. So I was like, okay, maybe I can ask him to do so. So I just written the text. Okay, I want maybe a cube that has a hole in it, like a hollow cube. Um, when we are making a 3D object, it looks like this. It is basically a list of vertices and triangles that are set to specific position and that are read by the game engine to create the 3D meshes. And so, can you make this kind of text for me that represent maybe a cube with a hole in it? And to my surprise, it did pretty well in terms that it understood the assignment, even if it was based on a visual clue, but it didn't get maybe some of the little thing that we know when making 3D object. For example, all of the normal, which basically tells the face that the triangles must have. He set all of the normal direction to the opposite side, which means that at first I couldn't see the model, um, and so but of course he was able to correct itself once I point that error to him, to it. So
Careful, careful, Vale, because
careful.
this
Oh,
is a very interesting thing. What is happening here? At the moment we
yeah,
start humanizing AI, but go
yeah.
ahead. I suppose that by the end of the video, you have very close relationship with
Yeah,
it.
and that, actually, when you build a conversation, and that's another thing that is important to mention in this kind of conversation, is that the AI build itself also based on the previous message, like everybody knows. So you can also tweak so it fit itself based on who you are. And yeah, like a real person would do. If I had somebody sitting next to me right now and telling him about okay, do this, do that, do this, he will give me a more appropriate response the more and more we talk together. So it really felt like the AI got humanized at the end and knew how to give better response to me, right?
Yeah, yeah. And now that we are still talking about environment, right, and it's about creating 3D models, I'm not sure how it was when you actually recorded the video, but of course, the whole AI space is moving incredibly fast. Um, Have you tried, maybe not back then, but now, to, for example, create 3D models with AI, using text or using images? Would you say that that would have been able to complement the game by, for example, creating some assets or creating something instead via text and just inputting and getting a 3D model from various tools like Meshy, for example, or others?
Yes, so that's a really good question because at the time, so it means it really shows how the this AI thing is really moving super fast because what I when I first did the video, there was no like text to 3D mesh AI. Right now, I think that Meta has released one like a few weeks ago, or has talked about making some improvement in this. But yeah, it's so weird to see everything going that fast. But of course, I think it's a game changer for the industry. 3D model can be made quite easily, the same way 2D image were. So I actually don't know what if these kind of model are good enough right now. I know that okay, you can ask maybe some very specific thing, but can they do the same level of art that is being asked to 3D artists? Um, so
Of course, I mean, I think that the answer is clearly there. It's no, and also probably not yet. So, and
yeah,
when and where, and also the level of detail that you would need is probably changes also in the case of the applications of the models, right?
yeah,
So, in some cases, you might need something that maybe fills up the background, right? And
mhm,
maybe you need a prop to populate an environment that is already busy. And I think in that case, AI can already create something that is, let's say, maybe not AAA quality, but indie quality. I can totally see it. Also because they are evolving very much in the way they allow you to edit the UV, edit textures, increase the resolution. So they go from triangles to quads meshes, right?
yeah.
So that enables to create much more and edit afterward the models much more. So, but I think that that's probably a moment for another conversation. I'm also curious to know, it seems that so far it managed based on your conversation, but when is that it really failed, like big time? Okay, this is really not working.
Okay, yeah. When did it failed?
If it did.
Yeah, there was some time where I was like, okay, maybe I'm stuck right there because I cannot ask. Uh, and the one thing that really stood up was the moment that so in Beat Saber, of course, you are slicing cube, but the way that you need to slice a mesh is something very complex. So you need to have your 3D mesh calculate like a plane and know which parts, the two meshes that can be generated after a cut, which is called a procedurally generated mesh. That's something complex, but I thought at first that ChatGPT could do it. So I asked him this task, and he gave me actually a script that could separate the vertices, but had a really hard time to regenerate. Two new meshes from the cut that was asked, and this was the moment where I had like a 1 hour conversation with the AI to kind of, okay, there is some problem there. Can you fix it? There is some problem there. Can you fix it? But after some time, it felt like the AI completely gave up and was like, okay, I'm not able to do this, but I found this GitHub project. Which is called Mesh Slicer that you can download there. And at this point, it told me to, okay, you can download it by clicking on this button. Then you need to import it. And here is a script that is using this external SDK that you can do to slice the cube. So this was weird in a lot of ways. The first thing that was weird to me is that I didn't knew it could at the time browse the internet. That was like, okay, that's something that the AI was not possible to do. Now it's the case. You can ask question, even direct the AI to a website. But at the time it was not the case, so I was really, okay, what's going on here? Maybe it downloaded some information from GitHub to give this answer. And then of course to be able to change its own code based on an external SDK like this was, yeah, really impressive also to see.
And so there was one thing is these other approach that you started thinking, because that happens also in other moments, right? When you, okay, the AI is stuck, how I can move forward still using the AI but not necessarily getting a direct answer. And I have a questions about that, but before, there was one moment that you also say something that I encountered as well, that is like asking the same question twice. The first time it's like, no, I don't get it, I cannot do it, and then asking again, and then it knows. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. Like, why did it happen afterward? Does it still happens? Is that something that you have encountered?
Yeah, so most of the time when I'm asking something, and to this day it is still the same. Even if I see a mistake, I'm just okay. There is a mistake. Can you fix it? And yeah, it feels like asking the question again, and you can see that it knows that it's not enough and that it needs to get a bit deeper. Um, so yeah, I'm wondering, and maybe you have some insight about this. If there is some like threshold, something that are used for this kind of chat gpt for kind of blocking the response to a point, because of course it read the depth of an answer the really depends on who you are talking to. um, but it feels that sometimes the AI is really intelligent, can give really a really deep answer, and sometimes it just blocks. But you can really try to shape the answer itself. But yeah,
I wanted to have a quick break to remind you that if you like this conversation, you should check all past episodes at xraispotlight.com. Also, if you don't want to miss anything, remember to subscribe to the XR AI Spotlight newsletter, and you will immediately get an updated list with over 200 mixed reality apps you can filter from various fields, weekly in depth interviews, and one product spotlight personally tested by me right in your mailbox every week. And now, let's get back to the show. I think that this is we probably need to ask some people from OpenAI or others is regarding like the depth and how much iterations one is the AI trying to dig in order to give you the answer, right? But on the other hand, like what you started doing at some point was like, okay, you ChatGPT don't have an answer, but you fed a YouTube tutorial to it. And this
yeah.
this was this is the moment that to me my mind blew, because okay, but then we are not just limited by the knowledge that was trained within ChatGPT, right? Then we can go beyond and use also external content to be fed into this, right?
Mm.
So how did that work? But also, do you see, is that something that you are still doing?
So the way it worked at the time is that okay, ChatGPT didn't work with the internet, so you were not able to provide a link and let the AI read some information from it. So I use another AI that is able to get all of the voice from a YouTube video, that will create the script for you, and then give a thumbs up of what's going on this video. I just use this text, send it to another AI this time, well, ChatGPT, and okay, here is the YouTube video. Can you learn from it to kind of direct me for the next steps of the process? And yeah, it was able to do this quite easily because it had this new information, which was helping it a lot. And am I still using it? Um, that it's really a strange process, to kind of this is really a strange case. I'm not sure that uh, without this challenge I would do this, right? Because I prefer to
Mhm.
watch the video myself. And it's you kind of by doing this whole process, you kind of skip the fact that you are the one learning something, right? You are giving the learning process as somebody else, and that's something that I really don't like, because I like learning. Like a lot of people, we like to learn new things. I like watching YouTube tutorials. I like trying to understand something from it. But of course, it takes some time. So maybe it's important to in some case go a bit quicker and set it to the AI. But I'm not doing it anymore because I only did it actually for this specific case. um, because yeah, I think that in this case you are missing on the learning process, which is very important as us human to kind of better ourselves and get better at what we are doing.
Yeah. And so, because the point of this is also, I don't think so. We as human ask and find, try to look for resources, right, to learn, and YouTube could be one. But indeed, like, I see no problem in asking ChatGPT questions. Now, of course, when we throw it just a video, the script of a video, it's gonna get only part of the information, because, as you said, a big part of the video are the visual that go with it, the explanation, the where you are pointing, understanding what the UI is, and so on. So my point is, instead, like, how would you then, as would it be possible for someone to train, for example, a custom GPTs on at a deeper level, right? With, for example, the tutorial you have made or the tutorial that others have made, to build a risk, or your own, on your own videos, people where they could ask questions, uh, and something, the training that would be probably also deeper, wouldn't just include the transcript from the videos that anybody can do, but you could add extra content and information. So I was wondering, have you ever thought about the opportunities of building a custom GPT with your knowledge that people could probe?
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I guess it in this case, yeah. The question at the beginning of this podcast was like, can AI replace my job? But I guess at this point, it will actually do it. But yeah, so train an AI based on everything, to kind of everything that I know to kind of help. Better help with extra content. I think it's already the case. A lot of company are now doing this for maybe technical support and different aspect of I know that Unity maybe is doing it actually with their documentation. Now you have an AI that is within Unity that can give you some really specific answer based on what's inside. Um, but yeah, it's personally, don't think I have the resources or the time to create something like this. Maybe because maybe it's easier than I think it is, but also maybe because I'm a bit too scared to have something that is, yeah, to taken of my own job, or because I like people commenting on videos, talking to me, asking me some questions. So it feels a bit unnatural to use an AI to replace my response. Yeah.
No, I agree, and that's the moment that we are venturing a bit into the uncomfortable, right? I want to still, like, discuss about a couple other things about the project itself, right? In this case, like, how that was made, but how you, as after doing this, what were the feeling you had when you completed the project, and back then, what was your feeling, and right now, after that AI has moved forward, is moving forward, how do you feel about all this?
So I really felt happy at first, right? It was like, okay, I made this project. It felt like really I was the one doing the thing, even if somebody told me everything. I really felt like, uh, in some cases, even when I'm doing project on my own, it feels a bit lonely doing all of this work. But doing this conversation with ChatGPT really was like working with somebody, and didn't felt. It felt at first that it felt at some time that I was losing a lot of time, but on the other end, I was on the project with somebody else, and when the result arrived and that I had this really copy of Beat Saber, I was really super happy to see how everything worked out. But of course, yeah, once you see the comparison between the real Beat Saber and my Beat Saber, no, not mine, but ChatGPT's Beat Saber, you're like, this is a bit weird, right? It's almost a bit the same because ChatGPT, and that's something we didn't mention, was able also to reproduce the pattern of cube spawning from the song. Because in Beat Saber you have cube coming at you to the beat of the music, and this is made from what's called a beat map. And yeah, ChatGPT could create its own bitmap, and it was like, okay, if you give me a bitmap, I can even spawn the block for you. And this was the part where I kind of move on from the happiness and was like, okay, this feels like maybe stealing a little bit of the game right now, because I'm using like the same gameplay, um, And
Well, I wouldn't
uh,
say, because I mean, in that case, the challenge was really to recreate the game, right? So I mean, that was all part. I wouldn't say it was stealing; it was part of the the task, right?
yeah,
What I would say is that, on the other hand, I don't think that an AI would ever be able to come up with a Beat Saber in the first place, and that is, I think, the important part here as well. That now we are making, like, can AI? Well, you still need to know, as a developer, as a designer, as a company, as a studio, what you are building, right? So I see that AI can assist, but of course it can assist if you tell it exactly what you want, because you had a direction of what was, let's say, another game to follow, and this is not how the real world works.
yeah,
So
exactly.
there are no direct answers. So, and that's, I think, where the experience of the developer cannot be replaced by the AI in any way. My thoughts here.
No, that's I totally agree with you. In the case in this, the harder thing with the hardest thing with Beat Saber is the design itself is genius. The game, the way it has the way you feel immersed in this game, and that you stay inside the retention, everything is really a very niche and specific design that the AI cannot come up of its own like this. It cannot recreate this on its own. This is 100% true. But something which can be done by the AI is take some hint of other project. For example, Beat Saber is like a mix of I don't know, Guitar Hero with the Fruit Ninja, everything mixed for VR headset. So maybe if somebody ask this question to ChatGPT, can you give me an idea of a VR game that's like a mix of Fruit Ninja and Guitar Hero? Maybe it will come up to something close to Beat Saber, but I totally agree with you in the sense that the design itself, it's easy to reproduce something, it's easy to copy something, but to have the idea and the execution and create the feeling that we as player we feel during the game, that is something AI cannot do right now. Right now.
No, I agree. Right now, because as things are evolving, there is never a never. But what about what about this? Why don't we show maybe what was the final outcome, right? And then we can maybe
Yeah.
go to some of the other parts, so that people can get an impression of how far the AI got. Let's show a little extract of the video that you have put together, and then maybe you can talk over us.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, you can already see me wiggling the two saber there with in front of here the environment that ChatGPT told me to recreate. Here you can see some smoke, and actually the script that is rotating the hollow cube is also made by ChatGPT to give here a bit the same effects. And you can see here now the beautiful slicing of cube. Even if I miss a lot of cube, I'm not the best at the game, but you can see that, yeah, it's insane to see like the slicing is really well done by ChatGPT. And there is the best shot for me on the video. On the left you have the real game, on the right you have the ChatGPT version with the same beat map, which means that the two you have the same spawning of the cube, and you can really feel like, yeah, okay, the game is really similar um, in terms of gameplay, because yeah, it's following the same pattern with the same song.
So some other points that, for example, how was it when creating, for example, the shaders or the particles or something that was not necessarily the code or a mechanic or a 3D model? How did it perform there?
Yeah, visual. So in terms of visual, and ChatGPT is not very good at it, right? It's really impressive in terms of, okay, code writing, for example. But one example that I can give you is that I tried something with a custom shader. So shader are basically the thing that tells how material on game looks. So for example, do you want a shiny cube? Do you want a cube with like red cross like in Beat Saber? Do you want some edge glow? I don't know. And I wanted to create a kind of effect, right? I could actually shader our program. We can ask them. We can ask ChatGPT to write us the shader by text to create a specific effect. But in recent version of Unity, there is a new tool which is called shader graph. Because shader are so hard to make, you have now a tool to kind of have little boxes that you link together to create the desired effect. For example, okay, I can link the texture with the glow with the body, and then this will create this effect, for example. But of course, this is like a visual thing, right? That's something to kind of help us to not have to write down all the shader text when making a shader. Okay, so to give an example here, so um, ChatGPT is of course really bad at visuals, right? It's a text chat, so it's good at giving you some clue on how to code and how to write stuff. So I wanted to give it a task about something that's really to the way game looks, which is a shader. So basically, shader is how a material or an object in a game appears. The shader will tell, for example, if an object needs to be metallic or that it needs to have I don't a edge glow, for example, an outline or this kind of effect. So usually, what you do to create a shader is wrote down some code, but in the so in the newest version of Unity, you now have a tool which is called shader graph, which helps you to not have to code the shader yourself, but drag some link between boxes to so it's a node based code basically to really help you to not have to write down all the shader code, which is really long and really annoying and really hard also. So I was like, okay, can I ask ChatGPT actually to make me a shader, but know that in a way that he likes it, which is using a code. But okay, can it do it with the new tool that Unity has created to visually create the shader? So I told him, okay, there is this shader graph that use little boxes and that can link one boxes to another to create the effect that I want. I want this effect for the game. I want the emission effect like in Beat Saber. Can you actually use some, I don't know, text to maybe create the box visually or create like a visual for me to understand how I can recreate this effect on shader graph? So yeah, the AI was uh, a bit okay. It really felt like it was a task that it was not made for, right? To create visual based using text, but to my surprise, it actually used some letters to create the little box form. He wrote down the name of the node using some text, and then he linked with a special letter the a special letter one box to another. And so I was able with this visualization to recreate the effect on my project. So yeah, it's also it really felt like it was not made for this, but for some reason it didn't do too bad. The same way that it created 3D meshes for me, but it didn't do it the right way at first. So yeah, I'm really curious to see if ChatGPT is still able to do this, or even yeah, I should actually recreate the same video with 1 year later with the new ChatGPT to see the difference. It will be interesting.
Yeah, and by the way, because I think also you mentioned that your experiments in this haven't, let's say, just confined to, let's say, coding, right? Um, and maybe a question also that I have regarding this coding is like, have you used any tool that support developers? Some assistance, some third-party services, or something like this that you have tested or you have tried?
So I know of course of Copilot,
Mhm.
which is which is a text prompt that can help you, so that can co-pilot you when you are writing some code. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not using it a lot actually. Um, I don't know why. I in some cases the um, I guess I'm so used to writing code of my own without ChatGPT that I still myself need maybe to adapt from this kind of change, even if I'm 100% sure that it can really benefit me. But for some reason, I'm so used to doing it my way uh, that I'm not using this tool enough. I use it for kind of the thing that I know I'm bad. ChatGPT, basically all of the email uh, that I write, I said it to ChatGPT. Can you correct? Can you say it a bit better? Can you shorten some part and make things a bit more nicer? But for code, because I'm so used to it, I'm not using it enough, I believe. Even and that's, I think, that's something that's bad, because it means that somebody now that has less of my knowledge but that has ChatGPT, because I'm not using it, we are now on the same level of knowledge, basically. So, yeah, I think that, like a lot of developer, I need to adapt also to this kind of change, uh, to kind of improve myself also.
I mean, and so given your experience, right, as a developer and someone that really, and of course, that creates tutorial and that teaches people, right, and as someone that also went this and tried to experiment and actually build a full game or recreate a full game inspired by Saber using only AI, what advice would you give to developers that are now approaching this, right, and they see, let's say, as you mentioned at the beginning, the threat of AI being there, but also the potential of learning more or accelerating their workflow? What advice would you give them?
So, yeah, that's a really good question, because I think that what you need to do as somebody that needs to learn VR development is first learn yourself before having the work with an AI. AI is really, we've talked about this previously. It's important to not let the AI learn the lesson instead of you, right? You need to be the one that knows the information, but you can use the AI, of course, to assist yourself or to even give you a little help on some specific task. But don't let the AI learn the thing that you need to learn yourself, because otherwise it's the AI that's getting better, but not you. And you need to move with it and not stay without any information learned. So that, I guess, that's my my recommendation.
Yes, and I think that there are also two things that we shouldn't forget, and that we mentioned through this conversation. One being the fact that you still need the idea, right? The whole directions. That is not something that easily AI can create for you. It can give you inspiration, but then from there, it's up to the creatives, the team, the individuals, the developers that takes it and bring it and shape it. It's something that it's easy to say when you're just recreating something that's been already made. That's one thing. The other thing
Yeah.
that makes me think about what you said about learning for yourself, it has another dimension, and that is about the problem solving. Because if you let someone else learn, then you will not be able to solve that problem, right? And because this is what you were doing all the time, right? When you were answering questions, it's because you to some extent already knew the answer, right? So
Yeah.
of course also your questions is something that, and your knowledge, it was invaluable in being able to recreate the final product. So I think that the value of that learning is in the ability to troubleshoot and solve problems and trying to look for the right thing in the right place, because you wouldn't have asked that questions about the shaders and how to build it if you didn't know that that's how some of these things work. So I think that it's really practical, and it's not just about, oh, you need to learn for yourself because that's better. No, because you will be have the knowledge to troubleshoot, ask questions, figure out answers that are outside of the knowledge of what a tool can learn.
Yeah, and like, that's really well put up. And of course, the AI is like bound to your own knowledge yourself, and asking the right question is yeah, it is a skill that comes with the knowledge itself that you are asking ChatGPT. So the better you are, the better you can get help from the AI, and the better you can um, make things on your own. So I guess it's, yeah, and I really like that you are putting um, the design aspect on it, because it is very similar to also the second one, which is learning, because you can ask ChatGPT for some idea, for example, title, but at the end of the day, it's your own creative mind. It's you that will have the final word, and that can, based on the information that the AI give you, can know how it fit your project. So how you can design things from the idea that the AI has.
Valem, thank you very much. I think that was a very insightful conversation, and I'm pretty sure that people should go to your YouTube channels and also as well to the Patreon to check and learn, because there is a lot indeed to learn. Also with the new continuous updates from present platforms and more. So I think that the channels are a great place. Can you mention the name of the channel, Valem, before we close up?
Yeah, sure. So I have two channels. My main channel, where the two video that I made on ChatGPT are, is youtube.com/ValemVR. That's a channel that is made for showcasing some cool thing that you can do with VR, but also with other technology. And the other channel is Valem Tutorials, which is a YouTube channel dedicated to teaching you how you can build your own VR and XR game. Yeah, so feel free to subscribe and to join, and I will be more than happy to answer and teach you there.
Awesome. Valem, thank you much for being with us today.
Thank you for hosting. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you very much for listening in. If you like the show, please leave a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or a thumbs up on YouTube. It really means a lot to me, and it's a great support for the show. Till next time.